all of the infrastructure associated with bringing on things like USDT natively, USDC natively, all of the bridges, all the adapter tools, everything that you need as a builder. Aptos did very fast in bringing those tools so that we as builders could essentially not get stuck, right? We could continue to integrate, and they had a strong testnet environment, which I was on earlier today, and it's fast, right? So when you're on Solidity, sometimes you have to wait a few minutes, and if you're doing tons and tons of transactions and deploying contracts left and right, a few hours can turn into a few days really quick.
So as we can see, Bitcoin is currently at about 92,000. It came down from its previous high of 99. And overall, the Bitcoin dominance has remained fairly strong. So the question here is, what's going to happen after the Bitcoin dominance comes down? Some people are saying it's going to happen in December. Some people are saying it's going to happen in January. Regardless of when, one area that I've been looking at is on the altcoin side is around the move narrative. And is it going to be SUI or is it going to be Aptos that prevails, or perhaps both? All we know is up to this point, SUI, from a price perspective, has been doing a little bit better, although there are many people that argue that a lot of the money will flow in from SUI into Aptos just because from a tokenomics perspective, when you compare SUI and Aptos, Aptos has a smaller market cap and it also has a smaller valuation. So therefore, there is more opportunities from Aptos. But that's just looking at it from one angle. There's also the technology angle, and we need to understand what's happening on the technology side to see, can Aptos really prevail? And what I've been looking at is the Aptos ecosystem, and specifically around Propbase, which is the second largest native dApp in Aptos. And so what I've done is I've brought in Kevin, CEO of Propbase, to give us some insight into Aptos, what's he working on, what is happening within Aptos. And so with all of that said, how's that for an introduction, Kevin?
Oh, it's great. One thing I do catch up on is I go to these Aptos ecosystem events, and one of the things that I noticed is there are new builders coming to every event and deploying products. So it's nice to meet new faces and continue to see them. I guess the Aptos ecosystem in general to support builders. So
Yeah. So one question that I have for you, Kevin, is when you first started building, because you started building Propbase a long time ago, before
yeah.
the whole move language even became mainstream. And so my question to you is, because you had to think about it from a different angle than most crypto investors that are thinking, do I put money in SUI or Aptos? You were not just investing your money, but you're investing your time and energy. You're building something. And so what went into the process of deciding between Aptos and SUI?
In my opinion, I think Aptos, what did it for us was not only the support from other builders to be able to ask questions and get feedback, but was a kind of standalone. So we could come in, we could go through enough documentation where we could, anytime we got stuck, which was very few and far between, we were able to get support right away. So it was in and of itself a kind of a self-contained learning process. So that was one aspect. So that's great for builders, right? Because in building, it takes time, and if you get stuck and you have to figure out ways to solve the problem, and that takes time, then that costs money, right? So the next one really is, can Aptos do what we want to do and build a platform like Propbase? So Propbase is a real estate tokenization platform. We fractionalize real estate assets. There's a level of compliance and control we need over the tokens that enable us to build out our ecosystem. And so Aptos, at the time, we had actually worked with them. They didn't have the V4 token standards, but they were near completing it. So we tokenize real world assets on a different kind of token standard than what you would deploy a native utility token. And it was nice because they were actually planning to launch much bigger products for this later. And so we got really early on. And so really from us, we looked at the background of the team. You know, Aptos had access to essentially infinite cash flow from Facebook from previously being DM and Libra blockchains. They started from scratch, so the Move language is completely unique. And in deploying now a lot of smart contracts, there's a fairly likelihood that the intended result is the intended result you want to get. And with other languages like Solidity and Rust, you have a lot of vulnerabilities. And obviously, you're Certic as well. We do a lot of our audits with you guys. And so and our auditing process has gone smooth with those same intentions being realized within the code. And that's a kind of a summary of what attracted us to it. And then we saw them growing and taking attention to Southeast Asia, which is great for us as well. And yeah, and I think that um, as a layer one, there's also a certain amount of, let's call it legwork that you need to do, especially if you're not EVM, which is build out the wallet infrastructure, all of the infrastructure associated with bringing on things like USDT natively, USDC natively, all of the bridges, all the adapter tools, everything that you need as a builder. Aptos did very fast in bringing those tools so that we as builders could essentially not get stuck, right? We could continue to integrate and they had a strong testnet environment, which I was on earlier today, and it's fast, right? So when you're on Solidity, sometimes you have to wait a few minutes, and if you're doing tons and tons of transactions and deploying contracts left and right, you know, a few hours can turn into a few days really quick.
What are you hearing from the team as far as like partnerships, integrations? You just mentioned the native stable coins. You know, that's exciting to see the integration. Anything else that you're
Yeah.
hearing from the team?
Yeah, I think so. Aptos, I think in the early days, I noticed it was more focused towards let's almost call it 2021 narratives. So, you know, NFT collections, getting builders at kind of mass market dApps, whether it be meme coins or gaming. But there's over the last year, you and I talk about it so many times. There's a growing narrative, which is tokenization of real world assets, whether they be equities, stocks, bonds, T-bills, treasuries. You've got, you know, real estate. Really anything in the world, in theory, can be tokenized. And when you bring that value onto a blockchain, that is tremendously, you know, valuable for the actual individual blockchain in of itself. So I think that over the last year, definitely with the new component they just released, which was called Aptos Ascend, which was for basically real world assets coming onto a blockchain. And some of these partnerships just recently announced. So they've implemented with Ondo. They have the stable asset of Ondo on Aptos. We used to use USDT layer zero, which layer zero is a great kind of cross-chain interoperable standard. They've got pretty good contracts, pretty well tested. But yeah, it's nice seeing Tether come natively, USDC come natively. You've got Franklin Templeton partnerships coming for tokenized assets. You've got Buildle, who's coming to Aptos, and these are all just happening now. But you know, I can't speak for the team, but I'm sure that there's months and months of work that took to make it happen.
Yeah, I was always interested to find out, you know, what is going to be the identity of Aptos, because from a technology perspective, they're so similar to Sui, but from a
Mm.
partnerships or just like overall identity, can they be any different? And I think just you being one of the leading applications in Aptos and you focusing on tokenization of real world assets, it appears to me that that's like the direction, like if you believe in RWAs, if you believe in
It's
tokenization of real world assets, that's the direction.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If
You were going to
you
say something.
Another thing is it's trends, right? So trends are like meme coin is trending, right? Like it was big on Solana, then it moved to Base, now it moves to Sui, a little bit on Aptos, right? But these are all kind of short-term narratives. I think for Aptos, what I see is not a trend, a special. So they're building technology that kind of fits. What I see is and especially the way they build the technology. They're building the technology and the infrastructure in a way that really fits many use cases. So And I think, one of the aspects of many layer ones really is to try and approach that 1 billion users. When I look at a layer one as well, we know Ethereum really had the first mover advantage where they didn't need to cater to builders to build on their blockchain. Everyone was there. All the infrastructure partners were already deployed there. So it just kind of made sense. For newer layer ones, and the next, let's say, wave of layer ones that will launch, that are more specialized, maybe that'll launch over the next 12, 24 months, is that I think a layer one needs what I call a push factor. So they have to attractively go out there and try and grow the ecosystem. They have to set up grant programs that onboard new builders, not just bridging existing platforms to come from other chains. They need to, strongly onboard large mass market gaming platforms that are, looking at blockchain, that are already maybe deployed products and have a few million users. But it doesn't come from just I remember seeing a few times where a lot of ecosystem partners on other chains would be surprised with some new code popping up into their libraries or on GitHub, and they would be like, "Oh, this is great. We've got organic traction." But reality is you have to go out and you have to take the business and you have to onboard the builder and then you have to set up events and do hackathons. And so when I look at Aptos from a business implementation perspective, they were here at DevCon, full on hackathon, went all day, new builders coming on board, existing builders there continuing to testify. You have senior engineers there that are doing presentations about new modules that they're working on or launching, or just running early training programs into the Move language. And so I think that is what will move one blockchain away from the next, or position one blockchain over the other, as where like the technology it only needs to get so good. I mean, not a lot of people care about decentralization. You look at other chains like BNB, you look at Tron, they're not entirely decentralized, right? But what you need is a fast product, good build, a good documentation, and then there needs to be traction of new builders coming on board. With Aptos, there definitely is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition a little bit into Propbase because this is something you've been working on for some time now. And what's the latest with the tokenization of real world assets?
Propbase is quite simple for people in crypto to understand. Um, we tokenize hotels and resorts. We fractionalize it. We put it on our marketplace. Users can invest for as little as $100. They can choose to sell those property tokens to another Propbase user at a time and price of their choosing on our platform from either their smartphone, really anywhere around the world. And while it kind of sounds simple, it actually solves a big problem facing traditional real estate investment. So myself having, a prop tech background for the last 10 years, we've been, constantly trying to solve these problems in the Web 2 environment, but it really is only with a blockchain based infrastructure that it can be adequately solved and trusted, right? So Propbase in and of itself is a protocol. It's a combination of smart contracts that work together. We don't custody people's tokens, and the actual property tokens, through the incorporation into LLC-based DAOs, it's the clearest form of ownership that you have, where the actual membership list is the token holders within the smart contract address. And so it's new, we're groundbreaking, we're trailblazing tech, but our leadership team, we're all doxed now with Certix, so we've gone through our KYC audit. But yeah, I mean, look, we have a lot of fun what we're doing. We launched one product in March, that was Propbase Yield. Phenomenal. Exceptionally happy with the results of that. It's gone through multiple upgrades about every 3 months. We launched a tokenization engine, Propbase Nexus, in July, and now we're launching what we call the full product suite. So, and kind of wrapping everything up in together. That's how it combines a secondary marketplace and combines automated yield allocation. And so, yeah, I think that it's really cool. There's not a lot of platforms out there that are like Propbase, but the ones that are, whether they're in the United States or they're in Europe, they're gaining significant amount of traction. So we focus in Southeast Asia, and we like that. We like this market, and to be honest, it's a good time for real estate investment, and it's nice to be able to share some of the benefits that come with Thailand. I mean, it's got massive asset appreciation. It's got very dependable rental yield. And then the only problem is before, if people wanted to invest, they would have to come here, get a lawyer, do 2 weeks, 3 weeks of traveling. And so there was this huge barrier. But right now, from directly from a smartphone, someone could do so in 5 to 15 minutes. So,
I actually have an American friend that is looking to move to Thailand, so maybe we can talk about that off screen. That's
yeah,
exciting, Kevin. I think
yeah,
that cryptocurrency just adoption as a whole in Southeast Asia has evolved, and real estate is booming there. And from a regulatory perspective, it's a lot more clear. Which I'm hoping now,
yeah.
with the changing of the guard in the United States, that we can get a step closer to having a platform like this available in the United States. But it's exciting to see the technology that is, potentially going to be available all around the world one day. That's the real
Yeah.
exciting part, and this is a real use case. So, Kevin, thanks so much for sharing all this information. I'll be sure to include all of your links in the description. And for those that are watching, if you found this video informative, please consider subscribing, like the video, give Kevin and Propbase a follow on Twitter, and Kevin, thanks so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure.
And thank you for having me. And happy Thanksgiving, and look forward to the next one.